it.
We're doing live streams, yeah.
We are aware, and I'm going to hit record because that's what sensible people do. Right. Yeah. The live stream hasn't come up on YouTube yet. There we go. I think. Yes, I spelled Austrian right. That's good. Always a positive. Right, I have the live stream up.
Yeah, me too.
Good to go?
Yeah.
See what happens.
Max Verstappen has taken the checkered flag to win. That was absolutely brilliant. No, Sergio Perez is giving it everything. Oh no, Maggie, that was so not right.
It was so not right.
Took out both legs of
and at the back, that's George Russell out of this race. Daniel Ricciardo makes contact there with Kevin Magnussen, and there's a second contact.
Oh.
God, you sound great. You sound really good.
Yeah, I'm in Dublin. I'm in a hotel. I'm doing some American game show thing, which I can't talk about because I've signed NDAs and the Americans hate anything that's been told. So I can't say what I'm doing in Dublin, but some American game show. So I'm currently in a hotel and it's all a bit mad. And I'm sorry that at least we're here this week.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair,
we're on holiday.
I did go on holiday, and then I got back and I didn't feel well, so with the only night we could have podcasted the week I got back, I wasn't really up for it. Annoyingly, I was in Austria. I should have just stayed there. I should have stayed another week and then just gone to the Austrian Grand Prix because that was
didn't you?
Good
You didn't
fun.
think about that,
Yeah.
So you could be smoked out by flares. Don't get me
started. Yes, and rained on, and then see a lot of track limit violations.
Yeah, I think we will talk about all that later.
I'm sure we will when we find out what happened.
Sorry, I forgot my headphones. I forgot everything, and I'm barely here. And this podcast has been off, definitely off, and then suddenly about 15 minutes ago, I can do it.
Yeah, I was fully expecting for us to be 2 weeks. My fault last week, your fault this week, but no, we are here. So
it's not my fault. I'm not claiming this one. I'm actually here.
Yeah, we're gonna try and throw together some kind of semblance of a podcast for you. So should we go into the what we think Carl happened? We need to come up with a better name for that.
Carl happened.
Yeah, well, you need to come up with a better name for a feature. I need to come up with a bumper for it as well. Yeah. I've only got this at the moment.
What the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck happened? Yeah,
I mean that's pretty much Carl's what the fuck. Okay, Off we go. Carl's what the fuck.
Carl's what the fuck. So I'm actually I can't tell you about qualifying because it rained. I don't know what happened. I can't remember. It was too long ago. I know.
So many sessions though. So many sessions. It's just you just forget.
Yeah, and it was all a bit kickball at Scranbury in our house on the Saturday. So it's Friday. This is what confused me. It's the Friday. And I think trying to work out what happened on the Friday. But anyway, so let's start on the spring race because I sort of remember that and I actually wrote notes. So great start from the Hulk. So spring race, great start from the Hulk. Red Bulls and turn one were squirrely. Lando, oh dear, dropped to 10th. Yeah, the anti-stalled him. I don't know. This whole anti-stalling, I don't get it. Haas looking good in the wet, even K-Mag and a Merc battle. Inter's all the way to the end, question mark. Wasn't sure as to what was going to happen because that was wrong in the end. K-Mag and Merc fighting in the middle of the race is great racing. Yeah, they were really having a real battle there. Albon playing a great defensive game. So Perez saving tyres, that's the game. The Haas boys just didn't protect their tyres. Obviously they died slowly. Ocon, Leclerc and Norris fight, that was great. There was a lot of great driving this weekend and great battles when they're actually on the track. Leclerc twitched off, Norris took advantage. Oh yeah, he lost a little twitch there. Russell testing. Hello?
Just like, cool.
Russell testing the tyres out. Obviously went on to softs. Can't remember. Went on to mediums, didn't he? And made the right decision in the end. Poor Hulk and the Astons all over him. That was obviously when he pulled out. Lap 18, pit time. Are softs really right? Questioning this. Lap 21, Albon, Piastri and Leclerc fight. Again, great driving, great challenges. Felt like one of those races, and I think I love the track. I think it's a great track. It's definitely one of my favourites. Feel sorry for Albon in the final lap. That was harsh. I thought Hassel fucked it for the Hulk, but I eat my words. He obviously changed tyres. And
remind me what happened to Albon on the last lap, because I can't actually remember.
I don't know either. I just said I feel sorry for Albon in the final lap.
Okay. I'm assuming he got done, because when did he finish in the sprint? I can't remember now. I'll get.
I think he probably got done somewhere. And then Red Bull infighting. Love a bit of Red Bull infighting at the end there. So that was sprint race. I think we're talking let's talk about the sprint race as a general. I love the sprint racing. I love this format of weekend. I would have this every weekend if I could. I know there are a lot of purists that don't like it. I know there are a lot of people that don't like it, but I actually, as the casual viewer, if you will, although I watch it every weekend, but the sort of not obsessed like you on it, although I secretly am. But I think it was a really interesting race and really interesting to have the sprint race. The qualifying on the Friday is a bit strange. To then have another qualifying on the Saturday, I find that a bit strange. But
it's very detached from what we're used to. But I agree. I actually do like it, but I wouldn't want it every week. I quite like this, this six of the season type thing. I find it exhausting. It's just so much competitive sessions to watch, because I'll listen to the practice sessions while I'm working, and I'll just it'll be an in the background type thing, but I'm paying attention to what's going on, and then I'll sort of catch up on the news afterwards. But it's not competitive, so it's kind of like if you miss it, it doesn't really matter. You're kind of committed to so many competitive sessions now, and it's exhausting. It genuinely, I found myself, because I had quite a busy weekend anyway, so I was kind of fitting in Formula One around other stuff. Shock horror. You are okay. I hope you're sitting down for this. Convince my in-laws to watch the race. So we watched the race live.
How did that go?
So I was up. They actually quite enjoyed it. And then my father-in-law said, "Oh yeah, I used to watch it when I was younger." I'm like, "What? You're just saying this now? I've known you for 6 years nearly, and you're just now telling me you used to watch Formula One back in the 70s and 80s." Jeez. So yeah, the mother-in-law seemed to kind of enjoy it. She was asking lots of questions, and the father-in-law was just sitting back and kind of enjoying it. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to convert.
You watch it with your parents as well, or was it in your house?
Well, no, because I was at the in-laws.
All right.
But I do normally watch it with my parents.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we because we're very lucky that me and my wife, we both have both of our parents still alive and together and very much healthy. So we're very, very lucky on that sense. So we do spend a lot of time with them, and fortunately my parents are very into their Formula One, but hers are definitely not, which is why I miss quite a lot of races nowadays, because family has got to come ahead of sport, obviously.
You do,
and it does.
You're doing well, but what you do is have your wife involved watching Formula One and getting obsessed with it as well. My wife Laura is more obsessed than I am. It's hilarious.
Oh, don't get me wrong,
so much more than I do.
My wife said to me, "I can't believe we've got to go and spend time with my parents this weekend. We're going to miss the Grand Prix." And it's Austria, because
you don't listen to the podcast.
She lived in Austria for a year, so she loves the Austrian Grand Prix. It's her favorite Grand Prix. So she was quite gutted about that. So then she messaged them and said, "When we leave on Sunday, how about we, instead of leaving at sort of 2:00ish, we'll leave at 4 and we'll all watch the race."
Bribery. You can keep.
Yeah, she was literally like, "We'll have Sunday lunch. We'll have it a little bit earlier, but then we'll watch the F1. We'll stay a little bit later, and then we'll leave after the F1. How about that?" And they're like, "Yeah, you can do that." So yeah, she actually fully bribed them into watching it. So and it's her. I didn't suggest this. This was her. So
I live with my in-laws, and bless them. Yeah. They don't watch it, but it's like every race. Oh, what time's the race? Okay, well, we'll have lunch a bit earlier. We'll have a lunch a bit later. Oh, the lunch is 1:00. I'll bring lunch into you. Just sorted. Winning.
Brilliant. So yeah, this might be the start of something beautiful. You never know. It might be. I may never miss a race again.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm not going to
Yeah.
hold.
Yeah. But
We,
yeah, so should we unpick some of the talking points from the sprint before we move on? Would that be a good
go on.
idea?
Go
But
on.
yeah, what did you think about that opening battle then with Perez and Verstappen, the two instances?
Well, they would just get so there's turn 1 instant and the turn 3 instant, which confused me because I thought they were the same turn because it sort of happened in a replay and I was trying to catch up with what the hell was going on. And that's the problem with I now know why you found it so hard to do the 22-minute challenge, because you're writing stuff down and you're missing bits as well. Anyway.
Yeah, but the way I did it, I'd watch the race, absorb it, and then I'd go back and watch the 40-minute highlights. And then now that when I know what narrative is actually going to follow through the race, as I watch the 40-minute challenge, the 40-minute review, I would then kind of put a 2-minute challenge together.
So, which is fine. I like this whole thing, but was it a bit of tussle, or was it actually not, in the sense of because you've driven into me, I'm going to drive into you type thing. Like Verstappen, it felt like I was actually with Perez more on it, like especially the turn 3 one, and then Max was like, what the fuck? I was like, no, like that wasn't how it seemed. And it definitely felt like Perez was going on the inside there, and it just felt like, yeah, of course it was,
It was typical Verstappen, and I mean that Verstappen, he's not having to.
It was like turn 1. It was like, I lost control. Well, did you?
Yeah. So like Perez, it was verging on the edge of rude, but he absolutely earned the right to at least challenge Verstappen into that corner. But Verstappen, because the way he is, he doesn't like that. He will then just throw it up the inside on the next corner. And you could see when he went up, when he took Perez at turn 3, he didn't even attempt to make that corner. He pushed Perez out wide. You can see by the steering angle. It's very similar to Rosberg Hamilton in that. And
then he blamed that he couldn't drive.
What? Do you remember that very race? The first race, pretty much one of the first races we watched together. That it was Rosberg Hamilton
12 years ago.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that long ago. It was Rosberg Hamilton coming together in Austria in 2016, 2015, 16. It was that race, and then we paused
10 years ago.
Yeah, so we
paused. I can't remember past last weekend.
It was about 8 years ago, but we were sitting there and we were debating like hell. We were debating like hell about whose fault it was. You were saying it was Rosberg. I was saying it was Hamilton, and then we then pressed play on Sky, and the commentators would just bring up all the points that we made, and we were just laughing our tits off because it's like, yep, we should be on this show. But yeah, I was right. And this was the same thing. This was the same thing, to be honest. And we saw it in sprint qualifying when Hamilton, absolute slam dunk. He impeded Verstappen on his lap while he was getting ready to start his quick lap. And then Verstappen just cynically, there's no way was he going on to do another quick lap. He cynically then got in Hamilton's way just to wreck his lap because he'd been impeded on the previous lap. Instead of letting justice play out, Hamilton would have got a slam dunk 3-place grid drop for that. But then I'm convinced that they were just like, do you know what, martial law, they both impeded each other, let's just leave it. Whereas what should have happened is Hamilton should have got a 3-place grid drop for that. But he still would have got into further into the qualifying. And as it was, because of what Verstappen did, he was out of sprint qualifying in the first session. So that's the kind of attitude it is. It's the whole, look at me, I'm the big man, nobody can beat me, the man at the scenario. Same thing. Why did the team let him box to the fastest lap? I know we'll get to that later. But why did the team box to the fastest lap?
No, don't reveal it.
I'm sorry. I'm on a bit of a Verstappen rant at the moment, so
right.
I apologise.
Anyway, the Red Bull rant, because I think that's a whole bigger subject.
That's my rant point over for that one anyway.
There were some great battles. There wasn't in that. There was nothing. I mean, what did you think about the tyre choices there? Because obviously that was a great play with the inters and the wets. Did anyone make the right decision or the wrong decision?
It was 6 of 1 half dozen for me. Hulkenberg pitted from, what was it, 4th and then finished 8th, I think it was. So it didn't really work out for him, but he still managed to get a few points. But he was going backwards anyway, so there's no way of saying that he definitely would have finished any higher up anyway. So
Yeah.
I think the tyre choice didn't dramatically change anyone's race. There was a few people that didn't quite make it work.
I think
and a few
it did
people
with
that
Russell,
just
though.
about.
I think because he made the right choice at the right time.
Yeah, but again, he only got 1 point out of that, I think, and I think he was pushing on the edge of points anyway. He probably gained, because he was the first one in. He probably did gain a position or two because of it. The people that came in the following lap probably didn't gain anything, so or maybe a position at best. So it, unfortunately, I mean, it's a sprint race; it has to be short, but the race was a little too short for that scenario to really play out well. It would have been nice if the rain had eased slightly earlier, or had been slightly less, or the race had been slightly longer. So then we had that kind of midpoint in the race. Do you stick with the intermediates to the end? But then saying that, everyone may have just pitted for dries if that was the case. With it, we had converging strategies with this, so maybe it was maybe it was exactly what we should have had in the end anyway. But yeah, I think the rain definitely spiced up the sprint in that sense. But Austria doesn't really need a lot of spicing up. It's a pretty good circuit anyway. It's always good racing there. The high altitude helps with that as well. Every track should be high altitude.
Is that what it is?
Well, because the air is so much thinner, they have to work the air harder to get the downforce. So even though they're going, there's so much less wind resistance, so they're going so much faster in a straight line because the air is thinner. So they have to put thicker wings on to get more downforce through the corners. So what you would normally have on in Monaco, you probably have on in Austria, even though they've only got 8 corners of any significance.
Yeah, I know we'll talk about it later, but the differences between the McLarens at the moment, the two cars.
Yeah, I mean, that's part driver as well, but like you say, we will get onto that.
I think we'll get onto that.
Lando is a bit of a specialist.
So on Saturday as well, just to pass and make note of it and pass respects. Obviously, the guy Delano van der Hoft.
Yeah, terrible.
And obviously, it's a tragedy. I think we need to see what, just because it happened on the Saturday there. And I think we need to make sure that, that it doesn't happen again. It's the second time in the second race. So
yeah, anyone who says that's
it's Spa and but it's just I wanted to note it as well.
Oh, absolutely. It was horrific. It's terrible that it's still happening. And to be honest, I don't know what the solution is. Now I know that they've made changes to make things better, but obviously you can still bounce back onto the path of other cars. And yeah, the visibility was terrible. So I think it's either a case of we don't race in Spa when it's wet, or dare I say it, we don't race in Spa, because this isn't worth people's lives. I love Spa. It's one of my favorite circuits, if not my favorite circuit.
Spa's causing too many problems.
Yeah, they're doing everything they can to improve things, but at the end of the day, if you're in a projectile that hits a stationary object at 200 miles an hour, you or the object you hit is going to be destroyed. There's not much you can do. You make one thing stronger, it's just gonna harm the other thing more. If you're T-boning a car at 150, 200 miles an hour, it's not gonna come off well.
There's some Einstein theory, isn't there, about that, the relative speed thing, whatever it's called.
It's just not gonna happen. So they need to find a way of stopping that completely. And I don't know what the solution is, but gravel would stop them bouncing back into the track, I suppose, to a degree. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but we need to stop children dying. It's not right.
Yeah.
They need to find a solution and need to find it soon, because this will kill the Belgian Grand Prix. Absolutely. This will end the Belgian Grand Prix.
I don't think it's far off, and it's very nerve-wracking in some ways. And the fact that we missed one 2 years ago now. Well, we'd sort of had one, but it's
officially we have one, and it awarded 4 points, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, that's and I think it is it's a mad track anyway, because of where it is and how it is. But
sorry, in 14 years' time, Felipe Massa will sue them for that race, and Lewis Hamilton will get awarded the championship retrospectively because of the points that he lost because it was a full points race.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch that one with a barge pole.
Jesus.
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
So shall we do the actual race then?
Yeah, we may as well after that slightly somber note. And also just to mark it as well, Bob Fernley as well also passed away. But look, that's slightly more expected. In his 70s, been battling cancer, and he was made his mark on Formula One. So yeah, let's just mark that as well. But anyway, moving on to the race then. What do you think happened in the race?
Backing flags.
What the fuck?
Backing flares. I'm fed up with backing flares.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Get sniffer dogs. I don't know how they're getting them in. Anyway, obviously they're smuggling them in somehow. Anyway, let's stop. Hang on. Let's just do the basic. Let's stop showing them on fucking TV. Let's not have them on the TV screens. If they've got the flares up, don't show the crowds. It's as simple as that. Let's not make it a thing. Oh, anyway, there's enough other stuff to be watching, I'm sure. Like cars going around the track, perhaps, instead of people with flares. Anyway, all on softs except for Alonso. Lando again, feck the starts. Surprise. He's having real issues with the starts. I think we come on to the McLaren's full stop. Verstappen a great start. Oh, and Tsunoda goes off. Leclerc battling and safety car. Why? Why were you on safety car? We had no yellows. We just went straight to safety car. It's like they whacked that button on before they even knew what was going on. Yes, it probably was the correct decision to have the safety car.
But we didn't have a safety car, did we?
Yes, we did.
Did we?
Yes.
Am I going completely crazy?
Oh, no, we had VSC.
Yeah.
No, safety car. There is a safety car.
Did we? Well, yes, we did. Yeah, we did. Because I had an argument with my wife about it. I was saying we had a safety car. And she goes, no, we didn't. I was like, oh, no, okay.
We definitely had a safety car. Yeah. No, definitely a safety car. And then that question, why we don't, yeah. And
yes, because Tsunoda went off, didn't it?
Yeah, Tsunoda went off. Yeah. Grand, but there was no real... there was nothing at that very second which made any sense.
Probably gravel again.
But they were all together. No, it was debris. It was a load of his wing, a carbon fiber all over the track. But I get why there was a safety car in hindsight. Well, no, I don't. I think you could have done it with a VSC. Anyway, we can talk about that later. But it sort of went straight to safety car. Tsunoda being cheeky on the inside, no downforce. Oh yeah, he got back on the track. So that's why you really confused me. Lap 3, safety car in, good clean restart. Lando dropping Ham in it with track limits. Oh my god, yeah. Anyway, track limits, full stop. We'll get onto that later. I think we're going to have an argument about that. Sainz so much faster than Leclerc, but I think he was slightly on a different strategy in a slightly different way. The Perez-Russell squabble was quite interesting. Ham is creating his own track. Again, track limits. Let's not go off on that one. Black and white flag for Ham. Track limits. This is getting boring. Hulk stops. Sector 1 and 2 yellows. Virtual safety car. Late Ferrari pit. They went past it. I want to talk about that as well. About the safety. About when they're lobbing it out and the fairness of things, because I think there is a safety matter, but there's also a fairness matter as well. Ham really pushing Perez, but not got brakes. Ferrari 1 and 2, lap 25. So many penalties, but we'll come back to that. Still so many penalties. Lap 26, spoke too soon. That was about the Ferrari 1 and 2. Norris catching up Hamilton. Norris got Hamilton on lap 28. Verstappen and Leclerc. Why bother defending Leclerc? I have literally no idea. I don't think it's his battle. Why is he fighting like he did? But then he's a dry racer, so why would you not? Lap border penalty, stay on the fucking track. Funny Verstappen isn't getting one. Lap 43, 2-stop pit window open. Something in that McLaren update's definitely working, because obviously Lando's, but not in Piastri's. Debris has to go. He's useless. I don't know what he was doing, but he was obviously pissing me off somehow. Toto to Ham, the car is bad, and we know. Please drive it. That was a really rubbish Austrian accent. I'm sorry for that. Lap 60, great Sainz and Perez battle. Sainz being very clever with the DRS. Yeah, he's got brains, unlike Perez, who did not work it out for a long fucking time. Could not get that into his head. Verstappen worked it out quite quickly, but Perez couldn't work it out. Signs, what are you on about? He's intimidating me in his Spanish accent. But what are you on about? Grow a pair. Like, how are you intimidating? You're in a race car. Of course he's intimidating. He's got, anyway. Piastri is having a shit race. Sargent, better race, but 5 seconds. Obviously a penalty. Lap 69, Verstappen coming into pit. And that was the end of the race. Why he did the first lap. Let's talk about that as well.
That was the end of the race, but it wasn't the end of the position changes.
Yeah, talking about it. Did you see again the fecking barriers?
Were they out again? Were they?
So Verstappen was coming in, and you saw a mechanic racing over to the barriers to jam the barriers against the wall because of exactly where he's going to come in. So it was just like, what is wrong? That they've got to come up with a new idea as to where they put this Parc Ferme.
Just don't put them out to the checkered flag. It's as simple as that.
They weren't out, but they'd pushed them out into the pit lane and just getting them ready. But they had to be pushed back and it was just another embarrassing thing. No one really picked up on it. I don't know whether I'm just going crazy here, but and I'd love to hear what people say. And then Verstappen won.
Yeah, I didn't see that, in all honesty, but I believe you. We've got a cat come to say hello because he was meowing at the door, so I thought I'd let him in.
Hello, cat.
He's being annoying.
So there we go. Let's break it down. Let's
break it down. So, I mean, you didn't mention anything about Haas. I would love to just touch on Haas's terrible race pace. And people are making out like this is a new problem, but you've just got to go back. They've been in the sport since, 2016? And they've always been like this. They've always had terrible race pace. They've never been able to manage their tyres. They had one season in 2018 or 2018, I think it was, where they actually put the car together well. And that was the year when they were like really, really copying Ferrari or borrowing some documents. But they've always been like that. I just don't think we should be surprised at it.
Tyres well. That's the problem.
They what? Sorry?
They've got a lot of downforce on it. And that's the problem.
Yeah, I think... Hello. We got the cat.
Hello.
I think they just don't have the resources. They don't have the depth and the structure, and they haven't brought anyone in. They've still got, Steiner mentions in his book that they've got so much of their original team still there. Well, that's part of the problem. You're not innovating and you're not improving, and so I fully expect Haas to fall down to 9th place in the championship this year because I just don't see they've got a car that seems to be good over one lap, which means sprint races, they might grab a few points because if they can get up in the top sort of 5, 6, stay there for 10, 15 laps, then they might just hold on. But I can't see them doing anything because the car's not improving and it's got no race pace. So I just wanted to cover that off because that's just what Haas is. It's just Haas things.
Just Haas. Haas being Haas. And that's the problem. Like Haas, they haven't changed. They're very much a cottage industry. And I think they always will be because no one's going to go over to Haas. Do you know what I mean? They're very much a European thing, and then Haas.
Well, they're based in Banbury, I want to say.
Brankley, isn't it?
No, Brackley is Mercedes.
Oh, they Banbury.
I can't remember what they do have a base in like the Motorsport Valley in the kind of the Midlands.
Yeah, it's not run from there as well, and it's the cars are designed. The cars are designed at Dallara, aren't they? They've got a factory, a side of the factory in Maranello as well. So they are kind of half based in Italy as well. And that's the thing; it's a bit of a Frankenstein team. It's all over the place. Yeah, they haven't got a home, if you know what I mean. Like, they're a bit nomady. Yeah, and they're not as works team. They're a bit strange, and I think that's probably part of the problem with them. They're never ever do amazing. Yeah, they don't really have I think they've got a model to get into Formula One and stay there, but they haven't got a model for success. No, but I think they've still got the right drivers. I think they've got the best they can have. Yeah, they're not going to attract anyone else, are they? No. So and it's a real, and like Haas to Haas, like they'll luck a few points and they'll fluke a few things. But they're never going to be competition winning, in my mind, unless they change their whole theory and work with find a work team that wants to work with them. Do you know what I mean?
They need to find an engine manufacturer. I don't think they're going to find that. They're too busy working. They're so entrenched with Ferrari. They're not gonna.
I wonder, who owns Ferrari? Is it
Fiat?
I wonder if there's a Fiat team or whatever to help them along down the line.
Maserati, are they part of that group? No, I don't think they're part of that. They're not part of that group anymore, I don't think.
Are they not?
But there are other...
someone like that. I think that would be the only way of getting them.
Well, there was rumours, I think it was Alfa Romeo might be going to Haas to be a sponsor. Well, at least that merges two non-existent cars. Like when, those two teams are so similar. People always get them mixed up. So, Alfa Romeo and Haas, at least joining those two might actually kind of just get rid of that stigmatism.
And AlphaTauri now not being called Alpha. It's hilarious. We get so confused with both alphas being in there.
It's great. We're not going to have
no alphas.
We're not going to have no alphas on the grid next year. Love it. All for it. Fed up of it.
Yeah.
Aston Martin are going to be top of the championship before the season starts now because they're going to have the lowest name. AS.
Yes.
So they're going to be the lowest name now. So Ferrari, you want to talk about the VSC thing? I think they have to call the VSC at the time it's appropriate and not do what they do in IndyCar. IndyCar, let me just bring this thing forward first before you make your point. In IndyCar, they have this system where if they're going to put for a full course caution, then the race director will basically say, keep going round. You've got one lap to go around before I call the full course caution. So then you can make your pit stops if you want to, because then it'll ruin their, because it doesn't work the same as Formula One with the pit stops. It's not fortuitous to take a pit under caution. No. So they do that. I don't like that because then you're letting the cars go around at full racing speed on a track that's potentially unsafe. So
I agree.
The fairest thing to do is to call the VSC at the earliest opportunity, regardless of what is around. You shouldn't even look at the cars on track. So I don't know if that's what you're going to say, or you're nodding. So it seems like that's what you're going to say. I thought you were going to say, wait until the first car's about to pit or something like that. But yeah, go on.
No.
Go.
So I agree with you. The safety of any car, the safety of the race is more important than anything else.
Yeah,
absolutely. VSC immediately. But here's the but. You have to go past the start line after the VSC has started. So you have to do a lap until you can come into the pits. Same with safety car. Same with safety car. You have to do a full lap behind the safety car before you're allowed into the pits. A, that fairs it all up. B, it makes it, which means that pits still have the pit advantage. B, it's a safety thing anyway, because you don't know where that crash is at that point. It could be on the entrance to a pit, could be in the exit to a pit, and you could have everyone piling into the pits and they can't get out again. Obviously they close the pit lane, but that could happen if they throw a VSC, then they're bombing and they just happen to be able to get into the line at that point, and you're not sure what's happening. It could be a turn one type hit. So they have to do a full lap once the VSC is called to make it fair for everyone, because it's not fair the way the VSC, and it's not that it's not fair, but it gives an advantage to everyone else that's behind them and a disadvantage to those that are there. So, and that's a full lap. So even if you're halfway around the track and the VSC is called, you still have to go past the start finish and do another lap before, yes, the VSC might vanish. That's sort of the other peril on it, but at least it's a fair advantage, and makes it fair.
In theory, I agree with you. However, there are a few scenarios where that doesn't work. Scenario number one is what happens if you've just passed the line and the safety car comes out. You've then got to effectively do 2 laps before you can make a pit stop, and most VSCs don't last very long, so you then miss out on the opportunity.
Well,
what if that's...
Hang on, you're talking about safety car VSC, because that's two different...
VSC.
So the VSC, as soon as... But that's a fairer thing. If the VSC happens like literally as you finish crossing the line and suddenly the VSE drops. I get what you mean. I've got to think this through.
And there's also another scenario.
Yeah.
When a virtual safety car is called, it's normally because something has happened. And when something happens, it's normally a car hitting something. So you're then saying that a car has to drive around the track with a broken front wing or a busted tire and can't come into the pits for a lap and a half.
Okay.
So that's the two scenarios where I can see it falls down a little bit. But I do agree in principle that
I think that
for the first lap, certainly in safety cars as well, that the pit lane should be closed. But I think there should be a provision where
for the damaged car to be able to.
Yeah, if you have damage,
I think the stewards should be able to go in the same way, like when lapped cars pass, you just go car 44 is allowed in the pits.
Yeah.
What
you could say is you can repair damage, but you can't change tires unless the tires are damaged. And if they're damaged, you can't fit new tires. You have to fit used tires.
Yeah, I think there are ways around it. I think the only problem is, and I agree, is the fairness of if you've just crossed the line to do it. But equally, I think everyone would have to then be crossing that. It has to be a full one lap. So if you've just crossed the line, I think that's still. You'd still be doing the full lap.
But you take it into account, like you're just going into turn one, for example.
Yeah, the problem
you're well past the line. You then effectively have to do 2 laps before you come in. Now, there are ways we can dot I's and cross T's and make this so that it all makes sense and works. But what I will say is this.
I mean, this is the back of a flag packet. So
what are we trying to fix by doing it? So yes, we can put all these regulations in.
Safety, because going into the pits and bombing into the pits, who knows what, as a driver, you don't know what the hell is going on at that point. There is no reason. And you'll notice when the VSE or the safety car is out, the amount of incidents that happen in the pit lane, because everyone bombs in there. Mm-hmm. There's no pre-planning. Everyone's running around trying to throw tires out. They're running over tires as the Hulk did. Mm-hmm. Which I'm glad you didn't get a penalty for, I don't think. And there are, I might be wrong on that one.
I think you did.
And it's very busy. There's no thought process that's gone behind that. And I think there is a safety element. And also, people darting across lanes to try and get into the pits and it becomes a bit of a kick-bollock scramble. There's no calm down period on it, with the VSC, because the VSC could easily turn into a safety car, could turn into a red. If it gives you the lap, at least there is a decision after that has been made. There's not really times where you get an instant red. It has happened, but normally there's a VSC, yellow flags, VSC or whatever.
Normally,
that comes out before it. And there's a safety.
I will say that there's also go on, sorry.
There's also a competition element behind it. I know we're not playing to that competition, but it's a fair race in the sense of everyone, in the same way, everyone has the same engine size. Everyone has, you're not at the same choices to make as well. Unfortunately, the Ferraris didn't have the choice that whoever was behind them, might have even been Verstappen, did have, to go in. And I think to make races fair is important.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. I don't know what the exact solution is. I think potentially the solution is
a better solution. I'm not saying
the solution potentially is that you don't. They used to have it where the pit lane's closed under safety car, unless you're repairing damage. That's would be maybe the solution.
Yeah.
And that is for the entire period of the safety car. So the only time you can come in is when they go back to racing speed.
Yeah.
Or maybe you even go one step further and say that you have to complete one full lap after a safety car before making a pit stop, because then you don't have that 15 cars ducking down the pit lane. But equally, you wouldn't have them all going into pit lane at the same time. Because no
pit stop in VSC or safety car. Just blanket it. That's the easy idea.
It's the fairest solution, but equally it does take out. There's sometimes you have that strategy element of somebody will be hanging out for a safety car, and then let's be honest, if that rule existed, then Max Verstappen wouldn't be a 3-time world champion, or soon to be a 3-time world champion, to be a 2-time world champion, because that is how he won in Abu Dhabi, by making 2 pit stops under the VSC or safety car. That's when, and then he won a race that he didn't have the pace to win because of that rule. So it would stop things like that happening. But again, people like to see that underdog story. You see someone. I was playing the F1 game yesterday, and I was playing a race, and I was second place behind Fernando Alonso, who was pulling away. I was never going to catch him, and then 5 laps to go, they call a safety car, and I took a risk, stuck on a set of softs, came back and won the race. So I know that's only a game, but equally, like, that kind of thing people love to see. So. I don't know. It's just, what are we trying to fix? And if they can find a way to fix the safety element, but still have a little bit of jeopardy without it being a gimmick, as long as it's the same for everyone, I'm okay with that. But yeah, I'm not against what you suggested, put it that way.
Right.
But yeah, before we move on to the elephant that is track limits, should we talk about McLaren? Because that's a nice, good story.
So they put the adaptions onto the
Norris's car. 50% of them.
What do you mean by 50% of them?
They've got 50% of the upgrades came on for Austria. There's going to be another 25% for Great Britain, and then a further 25% at the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Okay.
I believe might be Spartan. I think it's Hungary. So they're hoping to get everything on both cars for the British Grand Prix, but they'll definitely get it all on Norris's car. But Piastri didn't have any of it.
Okay.
This week.
So I mean, 50% is good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if that's half their upgrade.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as well, we have to be careful. Lando Norris always goes well in Austria. He's never had a bad race there. It's one of his favorite tracks. It's definitely his best performing track. So he is a little bit of a special case in that track. He always does well there. So it's very difficult to say for certain that it's just the car. This is going to be the tester, Silverstone. See how they do. See how they do in Silverstone, because that's going to be the acid test. If they're still faster than Mercedes, or I know Mercedes have got an upgrade coming anyway, but if they are the 4th fastest team in Silverstone, then I'll start getting excited about the upgrades.
But it's amazing. They're an amazing team, and I'm really enjoying this. And I've just seen we've all just seen the livery for Silverstone.
Yeah, I'm not so keen. I don't hate it, but I don't like it more than what they already have.
Yeah.
If they'd have gone back to the whole, like, the proper chrome livery that they had back in the like the 98 onwards, or 1997 onwards, that car, that livery, I'd have been all for it.
And then I'm trying to do something. And then but that is a really interesting race, and really interesting.
And the battle of Norris and Hamilton was enthralling as well.
Yeah, and I found that really interesting. And I think Norris is a good driver. I don't know if he's the greatest driver that everyone, like, champion winning. Who knows?
I think he is. But I think he's the absolute real deal.
We'll see. See what happens.
Well, on my weekly driver ratings that I always do, my tally, I was checking this earlier while I was waiting for you. There's a possible 90 points because I've graded them out of 10. So for every race, possible 90 points I could have scored. And weirdly, out of the 9 races so far, Verstappen, Hamilton, I'm looking at now, Verstappen, Hamilton, and Alonso are all tied on 71 points.
Really?
And which is completely random. That's just the way it's panned out. And in 4th place on his own is Lando Norris with 67, 4 points back. So, and then the next person from that is Leclerc on 62, and Tsunoda. I've been very much in love with Yuki Tsunoda this year. I'm not sure how he did that. How has he got that many points? He's had quite a few 7s and 8s. That's why. He's not had any horrendous races. That's why.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think that's obviously just my opinion. And, anyone looking at the live stream, I'm currently wearing a McLaren top. So, Lando is my boy. So it's, you can take from that what you will, but I try to do this in a unbiased, balanced way. That I've got drivers in that I can't stand that I'm rating quite highly, and I've got drivers that I really don't like that I am, or that I do love that I am rating quite badly sometimes. So I try to be honest in my opinion, because it's just my opinion at the end of the day. But yeah, that's really interesting to see, and I think that if McLaren can give Lando a car that he can fight for race wins in, then he might stay beyond 2025, but there's a real chance he won't if that car doesn't pick up. So hopeful Silverstone, it's going to be a good race.
Hopefully, I really hope it will.
Right, should we do some track limits then?
I don't really want to. It's just painful. So, why can't they fucking stay on the track? What am I missing? What am I missing here?
I don't agree with the argument of, well, they can do it in Monaco because you can see a barrier. You can't necessarily see a white line, but they still should be able to. And again, the argument of, oh, they don't go on the white lines in the rain. It's like, well, yeah, because they haven't got as much grip, so they can't carry as much speed, so it's a lot easier to turn. So that argument doesn't really stand up either. What they are is fierce competitive drivers that want to exploit every possible margin they can to get to that. The best drivers are the ones that can get to that 99.9% and stay there. And over the weekend, I think it's a very good reason why Max Verstappen wasn't getting pinged for track limits, and part of that is driver skill, and the other is the fact that he's in by far the best car, so it doesn't need to push to the 99.9% of the time. So therefore that's why him and Perez weren't getting those track limits. In qualifying, different matter, they are pushing 100%, and what was happening in qualifying, the Red Bulls were getting track limits. So I think that's part of it. And then, you saw Lando was very conservative, didn't get any, I think he got a few, but didn't get any penalties for it. There was a few drivers that just kept their head down and stayed away from the barriers or from the curbs. They didn't get any penalties, and they were the ones that benefited as a result. So, you've got Verstappen, Alonso.
1,500, was it?
Yeah, 1,200 estimated, but there's only 1,400 laps in the race.
Yeah. So
that could potentially be, on average, you're breaking track limits once every lap. So what that will probably equate to is every driver, or most drivers, are going wide in turn 9 and in turn 10 on some laps, and then on a couple of laps they're probably going wide in turn 2 as well. So you probably find that they're breaking track limits 3 times in one lap, and then they won't do it for 3 laps. But it's not quite as amateur hour as people are making out, but because it is difficult. But just as Martin Brundle says, the accelerator pedal works in both directions. So you need to leave less margin, like you leave less margin in leave more margin. You leave more margin when you've got gravel right up against there, because you know that if you do go wide, you're going to hit the gravel. So it is just a case they do need to leave more margin. And that interview with Max Verstappen, I don't know if you saw it, but he said to the journalists, well, it is really difficult. Do you want to get in my car and try it? And of course, the journalist was like, yes, absolutely. I want to get in there and try it. Yeah. But it was very, very petulant and entitled of Max to say that. And I know the drivers are probably all thinking it, but they can all do it. They can't go to the maximum speed all the time, but they can all do it.
Yeah. It just feels
no way.
I thought I was an argument with you. Because, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, but the track needs changing. No, the track does not need changing.
The way they enforce the rules needs changing. They need to find a better way to enforce
the rules. And B, if you go over the line, you're out of the track. I don't get why that's an issue. Like,
they need to make it automated. It's not going to be impossible to make it an automated system. It just pings up automatically, and then instant straight to the teams. This has happened. Tell your driver. That needs to happen. Because what they can't have is what they had at the weekend.
There must be a system. I mean,
there is systems. There are systems for that. And Red Bull,
Must be a bit of a wire around the track that as soon as it touches, it knows which car it is.
It doesn't even need that. It just all you need is the downward camber. They've only got eight corners to that are worth talking about. So there's no reason why they can't have position cameras pointing downwards like the Hawkeye cameras in tennis. And then whenever the car goes outside there, it gets a ping. You can tell from the transponder which car it is. That ping goes straight to the team saying track limits at turn 9. Track limits at turn 10. And then when it comes up with the fourth one, it's like one more time, and it's a 5-second penalty. That's your black and white flag. They can tell the driver doesn't do it again after that. So, and that would be it. We wouldn't have to talk about it, but it was so blasé with it. And it is a track that's very difficult for track limits. So I think we'll see it a little bit at Silverstone, and there's a few other tracks this year that we probably will see it as well. There's a few turns in Silverstone where you can run wide and gain advantage. You can do it through Stowe, you can do it through the final corner, you can do it through Copse. So we are still going to have a bit of that, but not nowhere near to the extent that we had this weekend. Or if we do, my God, is there going to be hell to pay?
Yeah, I just got boring, and then the way it's all very boring. And now they've added loads of penalties and loads of things changed. I mean, wins for
Just made it up as they go along. They actually reset the penalty system, but it isn't fair because they've got people there that serve the penalty during the race. It's not fair on them because they're doing it under pit conditions, which means they're going to lose more than 5 seconds because. Yeah, normally you're as Bernie Collins said on the broadcast, which is really interesting.
They're jacking it up as they're rolling in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So of course it's going to take longer. So that's worse. But then also the people after the race, they weren't told that they were racking up penalties, so they could have stopped that. So it's not fair for them either. I said there's a genuine chance this race could get stricken from the record and just get abandoned and cancelled because it's just not fair. I can see other teams putting in protests. And if this result had affected the top 3, I think we would have seen counter protests from other teams and legal action and sport of arbitration, or court of arbitration for sport. And I know they're not technically involved with motorsport, but I can see those kind of threats coming in. So it's not a great look. They need to figure it out for next year, which they were told to do that last year and they didn't. So, it's on the Red Bull ring. They need to sort it out.
There we go. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that really got my goat. No, I think that's pretty much.
We have whinged a lot. Should we do our driver and dick of the day?
Yeah. So driver, Lando.
Yep, 100%. That's what I've got.
Yes, there was other good drives in there, but Sainz drove well.
Top down, he said Sergio Perez.
He's just winding you up.
No, he genuinely had Sergio Perez as his driver of the day.
No,
no. He was on balance. He was.
To be fair on Perez, he came from the back and got to the front.
Yeah, but he was 0.4 seconds a lap slower than Max Verstappen over the course of the race, and he would have been 35 seconds behind him had it not been
no one's as much as you of seeing those lap times. Do you know,
And plus, he was there because he couldn't get through qualifying. So yes, his race wasn't as bad as the rest of the weekend. He did a reasonable sprint race, and as far as I'm concerned, this weekend I'm not angry with Perez being terrible. He just wasn't great. He was fine. If he raced like that every weekend, there would be no conversations about his performance. But or there'd be very few anyway. There'd be like, oh, why can't he be closer to Max? But there would be there still wouldn't be a championship fight. So he's still not good enough. But no, definitely not driver of the day. Definitely not. Dick of the day.
I've got Debris because just Debris.
He was just anonymous. He actually had a reasonable weekend at points. He was quicker than Sonoda at times. His race kind of unfolded a little bit, but he was having a better weekend, but it just kind of fell apart at the end.
The obvious pick is the FIA and track limits, but
it would be,
but Hamilton and the whinge bag that is wound me up.
He apologized on Instagram for his attitude afterwards. He put a post out saying that he's he's very passionate about the racing, and when it wasn't going his way, he was getting despondent. He didn't like the person he became on that day, so he apologized for that. But it was getting a bit grating. But I'm going to go with Max Verstappen for Dick of the Day because everything he did at the weekend, the bully tactics of what he did with Perez, what he did with Hamilton in the sprint qualifying, what he did in the race with the fastest lap situation as well. And he doesn't need to be like that. He can be graceful. He doesn't need to be the big, you can't beat me. He's taken a point off his teammate who's not going to challenge him for the championship. He's put a great risk. And you know what? It would have been hilarious if it had been pinged post-race with a 10-second penalty and lost the win because he went for fastest lap. It didn't happen. I know this is making me sound like I am very anti-Verstappen, and I want to make it clear that I absolutely am. But no, it's
especially if down. He keeps on.
Yeah, no, I'm not anti Max Verstappen. I'm just anti lack of competition. So I want competition. So I want Max Verstappen to not win every single race. That would be lovely. Thank you very much. So I'm going for Max on that one. And you've gone for Hamilton, so that's fair enough. I get that. It was grating on me as well. It's not a great look, but at least he was good enough to stand up and say, "Do you know what? I was a bit of a dick today." So deserving of dicker today, but perhaps not quite as bad. So championship again. I'm not looking at the driver standings at the top, but. Perez 17 points ahead of Alonso. Not a great weekend for Alonso. We've hardly spoken about Aston Martin this week. Hamilton lost ground on Alonso, but 106 points to 131. Sainz and Leclerc 82-72, and then George Russell tied with Charles Leclerc now. So Leclerc has jumped Russell. Constructors Championship. Sorry,
I was just thinking about the Aston Martin. They really didn't do much, they were grand.
No, they didn't really have the pace. They weren't really a factor in the race. They had a bad strategy, and they did have a big influence on the race. It was them that appealed the decision, which then got all the penalties. Constructors Championship, Mercedes still in second place with Aston Martin just 3 points back now. They've closed in a little bit with those post-race penalties, and Ferrari closed in a lot on both of them as well. 154. I can see that finishing Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin. Mm-hmm. I can really see that. And then potentially even McLaren based on these updates, just 18 points back from Alpine. And then we've got Haas with...
We said that about America, and then suddenly they dropped that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And then we got Haas with 11, Alfa Romeo 9, Williams 7, Alfa Tauri.
We haven't really talked about Williams, but the Williams is... Albon is out driving the car, full stop.
Well, he's driving the car to the limit.
Yeah.
Sargent isn't.
He's doing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's unlucky. 11th place in the race, 13th for the sprint. On another day, he could have got a point. I said on Gridshot, Williams are flirting with the points on a regular basis now, which is a big improvement. So I'm here for it. I'm enjoying it. I hope it continues, and I hope they get a few more points. Yeah. So British Grand Prix this weekend. I'm missing the Grand Prix because I'm at a rehearsal.
I think I might be missing it, and I'm trying to not. I'm working, and I'm trying to not work. So
yeah. So I will be catching up with it at about 5 o'clock.
I can't catch up with
it. Maybe 6 o'clock. Probably about 6 o'clock I'll be catching up with it. And I might catch qualifying. I'll probably miss the start, so I might be able to catch the end.
I'm definitely missing qualifying, and I'll hopefully catch up with it.
This real life thing is really annoying, isn't it? Why can't we just watch Formula One and podcast and do nothing else? Bring back lockdown. That's what I say. When we used to do we used to do 2 pods a week back in lockdown times. Jesus. Because we had nothing else to do. Yeah. We used to report on IndyCar and Formula 2. I did 7 race reviews a week, and oh my god, that was tough. That was hard work. But we had nothing else to do because it was lockdown.
I can barely do one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Well, hopefully then we'll see each other next week, I guess.
Yeah, I should be able to. I might be in another hotel in another place, but yeah.
Cool. Pack your headphones.
All right. I'll speak to you later.
Ciao, bello.
Bye.